Welcome, I'm Nina Griffin, and this is the Astrology and Magic channel. This video is exclusive for patrons on the Practicus and Adeptus tiers. Thank you very much for all of your support. These videos would not be possible without you. Today, we'll talk about the Mars square Saturn aspect as promised in the natal chart. I will split this section into two videos because it's just too long of a single video to go through all the houses. But first, I wanted to talk a little bit more about how Mars square Saturn this year will manifest on the personal level in the natal chart in general, and then we'll get into the houses. If you haven't had a chance to watch the first video in this series, the Mars square Saturn, I recommend that you watch that first because it'll give you an overview of the energy that you can expect to manifest in the world at large that will impact us all individually as well. All right, let's get started. So Mars and Saturn will be square by sign starting July 1st until March 3rd, 2021. So that's quite a long time. Now Mars is going to be in Aries most of this time, and Saturn will be in Capricorn. So this duration is due largely to Mars's passage through Aries taking a really long time this year because he's going to be retrograde in September, October, and November of 2020. So he will keep the square to Saturn either in orb or out orb, but certainly by sign. Now in 2021, for a couple of months, this aspect will move into Taurus and Aquarius, where Mars will move into Taurus and Saturn will move into Aquarius. So there will be a coda, or a final act of the play, if you will, manifesting in the subsequent houses. You will want to check the Aries Capricorn houses in your chart, and then the Taurus Aquarius houses as well, to get a sense of how the narrative will play out for you. We will all be impacted by this aspect to some degree, some more and less, and I will discuss which houses are going to make a particularly prominent home for this aspect. Now again, since everyone is always impacted to some extent by any major aspect, some directly, some more indirectly, but the degree or intensity or duration of the effects will depend on a few factors. One is where Mars and Saturn will transit in your natal chart, right? And are they activating any natal planets in the process? If you have cardinal signs on the angles in your chart, or you have the sun or moon in cardinal signs, you are more likely to feel the square more intensely and immediately. Now, the intensity and durability of the effects will depend in large part on what is going on in your current distributions, primary directions, your solar return, and profections. If what I just said sounds like word soup, these are traditional predictive techniques. In other words, if this energy of Mars and Saturn is supported in predictive techniques for you, it means that you are going to feel it more intensely. If, on the other hand, there are other energies happening that might lessen or sort of modify this energy, then maybe you won't feel the square quite so intensely or so personally, and the effects might be more transient. So very generally, Mars square Saturn will manifest as needing to cope with crisis and separation on the one hand, that's Mars in Aries, and restriction and limitations on the other hand, and that's going to be Saturn in Capricorn. It won't be a fun time, but I can think of it as a period that will lead to later opportunity. And if we can only seize it, and if we can only see the positive elements of this, that can bring us benefits later. Now, Saturn will be the dominant force between these two planets. And so to the extent that we identify with Mars's disruptive warrior nature in whatever situation we find ourselves in, we will be stopped short by the wall that is Saturn. Again, I discussed this energy in a lot more detail in the first video in the series. So in this video, I will talk about the first 4 houses as Mars passes through them, and then Saturn as well. And then a second video with the other houses will follow very soon. So we will start with Mars in the 1st and Saturn in the 10th. You will be among those who feel the square more intensely because the square is angular for you in your natal chart. The impacts could be health-related, as Mars will pass through the ascendant, or you could find yourself taking on the role of a gadfly, someone who wants to stir things up and do battle, or to cut ties and depart from a situation. All good Martian symbolism. Now, in these efforts, you will find yourself limited or restricted by the 10th house, which can be your status in the world, your employer or another authority figure, including the government and governmental forces, and even your mother, who is also a 10th house person. I think of this as the I fought the law and the law won placement. Now, the law, of course, doesn't just have to be law enforcement, although it could be. It could be, again, any of those 10th house authority figures and your mom. Now, Mars in the 2nd house and Saturn in the 11th house. All things being equal, you will feel the square with moderate intensity because this square is happening in succedent houses for you. It will be modified, made more or less intense, depending on what else is going on with all those predictive techniques. So your impacts could be to money or benefits that you receive from friends and benefactors. One way this could show up is that you might experience unexpected or high expenses during this period, with some difficulty obtaining relief or mercy. And when I say relief or mercy, it could be money from the government, money from friends, money from your job. Anything that normally would alleviate these financial stresses may not be available, or it may be slow or difficult to obtain. The other way we could look at the square is that your hopes, which is an 11th house topic as well, could be harming your finances, so you could be a victim of unrealistic financial expectations for the rest of 2020. So the goal for you will be to stay realistic about your material and financial matters and focus on self-sufficiency, as friends or other resources may not be there at this time. Now, Mars in the 3rd and Saturn in the 12th, again, all things being equal, you will feel the square with the least intensity, subject to whatever's going on in your natal chart. You might experience disruption or conflict pertaining to neighbors or the neighborhood, as well as your mode of transportation. Could be a car, could be some other way that you get around, as well as extended family and siblings. Now, you might feel particularly isolated or, hopefully, metaphorically, imprisoned. Your ability to communicate could be limited at this time as well. Hopefully, we're not talking about a 6-month internet or social media outage. I suppose one way that you could potentially try to channel this energy into a constructive use would be to do that. Limit your exposure to the internet and social media. Maybe this is a good constructive use of this energy that might divert it away from some of the more negative or undesirable manifestations. I call this the quarantine manifestation or aspect because it will limit much of your 3rd house activity, staying extended family and traveling freely, and it may isolate you, which is a 12th house Capricorn kind of thing. Finally, let's talk about Mars in the 4th house and then Saturn in the ascendant. So Mars in Aries is going to be again in the natal 4th, and then Saturn in Capricorn will be passing through your ascendant. You will feel this square more intensely, as these signs are angular in your natal chart, but if there is no support for this square as shown in your other predictive techniques, the effects will be more transient and fleeting and hopefully less likely to be life-changing. So here, the disruption or separation will impact your home, real estate, or land, as well as the father and parents more collectively. Now, Saturn rules land and farming, as well as the father, so the rest of 2020 may make transactions or projects involving real estate or the home challenging, frustrating, and surprisingly lengthy. You may need to find a new place to live at this time or revamp the place that you do have. Certainly bring a dose of patience in any case. This is the "my house needs extensive repairs" placement, which could restrict your ability to enjoy or access the 4th house things in your life. So the 4th, rules the home, so the full use of your home could be limited. Access to your parents or your parents' well-being, whatever it is, will require you to take on a Saturnian role. And so you will do best if you can embody Saturn in Capricorn. Take lots of patience and look at things in the long term. To the extent that you will need to impose structure on things or take a more serious or even a role of denial, this could be quite helpful in dealing with some of these Mars energies that are going to be passing through your fourth. All right, that's it for this video. And the second one, starting with the 5th house and onward, is coming very soon.